Steve, so Steve has a few fans, I can see that. And Steve was kind enough to join us. So Steve is a personal friend of Fernando. He's teaching at ISDI, which is a digital university. I think started out to Spain, now going, I believe, much beyond. Certainly Mexico, and I think Steve is in charge of also developing it in the US. His experience that was really of interest to us is past working experience, especially in LinkedIn, which I think is the example that he's going to take us through in terms of how do you create a resounding success from a vision, learning from also mistakes and sharing that with us. So thank you very much, Steve. The presentation will be around, I think, 45 minutes, and then we'll take all the questions. There again, go on Slido, don't hesitate. It'd be a pleasure then to be able to interact around that. Thank you very much again, Steve, and over to you.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, well, good morning. First, I have to apologize because my children gave me a gift before I left the house of a cold. So if I clear my throat a few times during the presentation, it's not because I'm nervous. But I wanted to say it's a real pleasure to join you at the beginning of something really exciting for all of you here. Just a little bit of context of me and my background. You can find it on LinkedIn. I hear that's a pretty cool tool. But I'm a 25, 30-year human resources professional. I've worked in the fashion industry. I've worked in the networking industry, the insurance industry. I've worked in the games industry. It's fun working in the games industry because when your wife says, "What are you doing?" You say, "I'm market research, honey. I'm playing these games. Come on. This is fun." I grew up in South Africa. I was born American. We were kicked out of South Africa, sad, in 1970. And then I grew up on the East Coast of the U.S., moved to the West Coast as soon as I graduated school. And then I did a 2-year stint in Singapore with Cisco Systems. And then I went from Asia to Canada and lived in my favorite city in the world, Vancouver, British Columbia, for 4 years. I didn't get kicked out of those other countries. South Africa is the only one they kicked me out of. And then I settled myself into Silicon Valley in around 2008. And I've been working in the high-tech industry most of my career. But I was invited to share with you a little bit of a story of a journey that I had from 2009 through 2012 of helping grow this beast that has come to be known as LinkedIn. So I am going to be using Slido quite a bit. So if you want to go ahead and warm up your mobile device and get ready, I'm going to ask you a few questions as we go through this. But really, this is more about story. It's more about having fun. And I think this adventure for me may fill you with some ideas and some thoughts and some possibilities of what is before you and what you're facing right now as you're coming together to build something really incredible. And so let me start off with asking you all a question. So go ahead and get your Slido out. If you think about the greatest driver of creating a value in any organization, sports, technology, banking, what is the greatest driver of creating value in any organization? What do you think? And there's a little delay online for those of the folks who are dialing in from the offices, but what is it? Wow, we've got a really smart group of people here, Fernando. They know the human resource guy is kind of like hedging this one. Absolutely the answer to this one, in my opinion, is talent. Okay? So I got to tell you, having worked in big companies all over the world, I don't understand if talent is the #1 driver of creating value. Why is it the last thing we talk about when we're together as leaders? Why is it always the last thing on, we're going to, grow revenue like this, we're going to attack these new markets, and we're going to go after this new technology, we're going to do this acquisition, we're going to have this career program for our employees, and it's the last thing. I don't understand that. So I'm challenging all of you as leaders today, when you think about what's in front of you today, where, if talent drives success more than anything else, is that driving how you allocate your time? Are you devoting more thought and strategic investment in how you're going to find the magic in your people? And that's the story I'm going to share with you, is how we unlocked magic against all odds when we were growing LinkedIn back in the really crazy time. Back in, let's see, what was it, 2009. So let's see, next slide here. Okay. So when I think about the LinkedIn story, the best way to capture what I think the reality is for all of us today is a question that I heard asked my CEO, Jeff Weiner, many years ago. And he was asked, he's like, LinkedIn, and I'm not going to bore you with, a description of the company. I'm going to presume that some of you, most of you, hopefully, are familiar with what the LinkedIn business is. But back in 2009, people weren't really sure, well, what is the business of LinkedIn? Are you a recruiting company? Are you a networking company? Are you kind of like Facebook for professionals? What are you? And Jeff Weiner, our CEO, was asked, well, who's your biggest competitor? Because you kind of are this strange combination of different businesses. Who are you competing against? Who worries you the most? And this was around the time when Cisco had come out with this new marketing campaign. You remember the Human Network? And Google was coming out with, circles. We're going to let your Google people be all circles together. And then Salesforce was building out Chatter. And we're like, oh gosh, we're screwed. Everyone's going to have a professional network. And so Jeff was asked, who's your biggest competitor? Who you're really worried about? His answer, I think, is one that's very revealing. And it's revealing when you think about the business that you're in today. Jeff said, the company that I worry about the most is the one that hasn't been invented yet. It's the one that's going to disrupt my technology and undermine, perhaps, a solution that makes my business obsolete. Now, I don't want to cause great stress for you being so far away from having a drink this evening, but that's the reality that we live in today. Companies grow and die faster than ever before. It's incumbent on all of us, whatever we're building, to build a moat really quickly, because someone can learn what we're doing and replicate it somewhere else faster than ever before. Where software-driven economies can be built super fast. And so when you think about what's in front of you right now, and you think about the talent, are you investing, are you putting muscle into the right things to build your moat fast enough? Because if you're not, someone else can. And I think that kind of pressure, to me, gets me excited. I get really excited. But so the LinkedIn story I'm going to show you and tell you somewhat in brief, and I'm really curious to hear what your perceptions are around why LinkedIn has been so successful. But the really fun story for me is to share with you the unexpected nature of success. There were so many reasons why we shouldn't have been successful and why the company isn't successful. And I left that company about 3 years ago. I still do work with them today, and I still help them today. But a lot of people presume when a company is so successful that it was so easy. The product was a no-brainer. It sold itself. This was a brutal experience, which I'll share with you. Very challenging, very tough, but really, really exciting. And in some respects, we became far more successful than we ever even dreamed we would be. For me, it was a dream job, absolutely a dream job. If you're in human resources and you get offered a job to work in a company that's building human resources products, then you get to not only practice your craft of growing great talent and building a great team, but building products to help other companies grow great teams, and then you also become the salesperson going out and help close deals because LinkedIn was selling my peers. We were selling people like Flo. She's not an easy person to sell to. Most of you know that, right? So let me go through it a little bit. But let's start at the end. Let's show you what happened the time that I was at LinkedIn. We moved in about 4 years from 400 to 4,000 people. We went public, which is a dream if you live in Silicon Valley. We want to go public. I went to Wall Street. It was really exciting. It's considered today one of the best, most successful IPOs as measured by consistently growing the revenue and the return and the profits and shareholder value than any IPO in the last decade. We doubled the revenue every year while we also doubled the employee base. Do you know how hard that is to do? Have any of you ever been through that? Because what you're trying to do is help people understand where the bathroom is while we're also trying to help them, build new products. And everyone just got here. In the 4 years I was at LinkedIn, you know what my average tenure, the average length of service of my employees was? 9 months. So I'd say, welcome everyone, new hire orientation. And it would be about this size. Welcome to LinkedIn. Guess what? You're just like everybody else. Everyone just got here. We're all the same. We're all going through change. We have that commonality. And there was a freshness to that. There was a newness to that we're all sharing in, building something special. The other thing is that we disrupted an industry. And that is something that you rarely get the privilege to do in your career, to really shape something. As you sit, and I was sitting listening to Sato talk about, you're in the center of a device that is at the core of how people's experience of life is going to be immeasurably changed. That's so powerful. Well, we had at LinkedIn, we said, we're going to help people find their dream jobs. We're going to help your children find their dream jobs. Does that get you excited? I don't know. Do you want to go to Facebook and help children develop their short attention span and not do their homework? Or do you want to help people find their dream jobs? I don't know. What do you want to do? Go work at that game company where people are working on, killing other people and other stuff? Or do you want to help people build their dream job? What do you want to do? Disrupting an industry, great opportunity, and very, very motivational for all of us as an organization. The stock did grow a little bit when I was there. $3.50 to $252 a share. Shareholders like that. Our board of directors like that a lot. And so in aggregate, we had a chance, and by the way, I'm not sitting here as a guy that's saying, hey, we did everything right. We made so many mistakes. I can't tell you, there isn't a person on this stage today that's made more mistakes than me or the leadership team at LinkedIn. But I think today is a lot about how quickly you recover from your mistakes. There is no time to dwell. We have to move quickly. You're going to make mistakes. You have to make decisions before you have all the information today. And it's about recovery and agility and agile leadership and responsiveness. But by any respects, we wound up building a world-class company, which today still is performing extremely well, and I'm very proud of that. And for me, it really was a dream come true. What's interesting about that is to try to understand the anatomy. Why was it so successful? So get out your devices again. I'm just curious, before I give you sort of my insights around why we succeeded, why do you think the company succeeded? Why do you think LinkedIn did so well? And then after I give you the rest of my pitch here, I'm going to ask you this question again and see if we come up with a different answer. Just from your perspective as a user, hopefully some of you have found some benefit from it. I'm just curious what you think. We have some people that like free beer, that are motivated. Take note of this, Flo. Take note of this as part of the benefit plan. There are people, and they say, Steve, you work in Silicon Valley, like a foosball and ping pong tables and free beer. I go, yeah, that exists. But I'm just curious. Okay, awesome. All right. Well, it depends on how good the beer is, Flo. I mean, come on. Okay, let's move on a little bit here, and I'm not doing a good job of using my slide clicker. Okay, here's the irony of LinkedIn success. On paper, it should never have been successful. We had so many challenges. When you're growing at that kind of scale and you're going through that amount of change, we were terrified. We went from 2 offices in 2 years to 26 offices. We went operating in 2 countries to 17 countries in 3 years. Do you know how crazy that makes you when you're in my position? How am I going to communicate? How am I going to onboard these people? How am I going to know they're focused on the right things? How am I going to know how to run this thing? How are we not going to implode under the sheer weight of all this growth? That's a huge challenge. A lot of people just take it for, oh, success must have been so easy. All that free beer must have really helped you out. That was terrifying to us. Facing things like, we didn't even know, we had nothing. When I showed up, I was the first human resources person. We had 400 people. We had no job titles. We had no job descriptions. We had no compensation plan. People were getting paid whatever they were getting paid, however many free beers the manager had. That's how many dollars they gave the person they were hiring. I'm not kidding you. We were breaking rules all over the place and causing all kinds of inconsistencies, and I was terrified. New people, new issues, new programs, and we're trying to scale. And at this point, we're trying to survive. We did not have a big dream of what we could do. We thought we had something interesting. And again, I was not a founding member of this team. I joined when things were getting crazy. And they said, why didn't you invite me last year when you had 200? Now it's 400, 500. It's getting really crazy. I'm like, well, you can help us, Steve. That's why we hired you. It's your opportunity. Oh, boy. Okay, great. So, but wait, there's more. How do you get everyone focused in a period of chaos? How many people here love working in chaos? I do. You know why? And I studied this when I got my master's in human resources. Do you know the #1 driver of energy in the world? Chaos. It's a great driver of energy. Now, I'm not saying go back to the office and create chaos. I don't think I'm going to be invited to your meeting next year if that's the message you hear. But listen, how do you get your team focused in a period of chaos? And me, the people person, this is one of the things that kept me up at night. How are we going to keep people focused on the right things? And then how do we just not implode from the sheer weight and complexity of this happening all over the place? When should we hold our company meeting? What time of the day should we hold it? What are our values? What's our culture? What do we want it to be? We don't even know. We're growing so fast. All these big questions that older companies have a chance to play with, we didn't have a chance to. In fact, when I look back on my leadership team, and I'll tell you more about this in a minute, my leaders, all of you, brought to the table experiences of how they didn't want to grow the company more than they did how they wanted to grow the company. Most of my people, sad to say, myself included, had more experiences with unhappy ways that their company was run, how the levels worked, how people were promoted, how people were compensated, how communication happened. We had more models of how we didn't want it to work than how we did want it to work. So I would say, okay, are we going to have, manager, or employee, manager, director, vice president, or are we going to have manager, lead, associate manager, manager, senior manager, director, senior director, VP, associate VP, executive vice president, and CEO? I mean, what do you want to do? Do you know how we competed against Yahoo when we were trying to hire? Anyone here used to work for Yahoo? Somebody. Come on. Nobody? All right, on the screen. I'm sure there's a lot of people at home, right? Used to work for Yahoo. Okay, well, this is how we used to compete with Yahoo. We said, okay, have you ever worked in a small company before, a startup company? We were trying to tell ourselves we were a startup even at 2,000 people because it was sexier to say we were a startup than a sort of a medium-sized company. We'd say, well, let's tell you the org structure here, and let's show you the org structure at Yahoo. This is the org structure at LinkedIn. CEO, vice president, director, manager, you. Here's the org structure at Yahoo. CEO, EVP, AVP, VP, senior director, director, associate director, senior manager, manager, tech lead, and you. Now, how do you operate in a world that's increasingly complex, in a world where there's more data than we have time to digest, where our ability to absorb the information and the new technology that's coming at us is faster than our ability to process it? How do you win in a world like that? You win by communicating effectively and having a leaner, meaner, thin layer structure. That's what we felt. That's what we felt. Now, layers isn't the only way to facilitate communication, but we were terrified. If we're growing so fast, we want to keep it tight. And that was one of the things we spent a ton of time around. It seems like a simple thing. Well, I don't know. What is Google doing? Well, we're not Google. Why do we want to look at their org structure? And all the guys that came to us from Google didn't like the way their structure worked. So let's build our own. And that was a really fun thing. Oh, wait, there's more challenges. And yes, I did not have gray hair about 7 years ago when I started working there. But there was a little bit of a problem that we had when we were trying to grow our company. And that was that everyone else, after the recession in 2009, when it started to pick up, everyone else wanted to hire great talent too. Now, I don't know if this is a problem for you. I sense it is from some of the conversations I've had with some of your leaders, that trying to hire great people is a problem we all have. But I happen to have a neighborhood filled with some pretty sexy companies that, in the case of Google, were making more profit in a day than I made in a year, and paying more people than I could pay, to the order of 3 or 4 or 5 times as much as I could pay. So how am I going to hire those people when they have opportunities to go work for sexy companies that are in my neighborhood Oh, and by the way, how am I going to keep my people when I do get them? Because they can walk across the street and double their salary sometime. No joke. It happens. The answer on that one is, skipping ahead, is going to be on culture, and that's how you do it. But that was a big problem we had. The other thing, in 2009, no one had ever heard of our company. Today, it seems somewhat ubiquitous. No one had heard of us before. And by the way, professional networking, boring. It's boring. Twitter, hot, sexy, cool, tweeting, yeah, man, Google, yeah, I get to wear this lab, free sushi chef. Lady Gaga's coming to talk at Google today. Man, that's so cool. LeBron James is over there at Facebook. Man, this is happening. Messi's in town. He's going to be over there at, at Apple. What? Who's coming to visit us? I don't know. My mom's coming for lunch today. I don't know. We didn't have that. But we won. We won. I won, thankfully, and I have some scars on my back if you want to see my shirt off later. We won more in head-to-head competition against those companies than we lost at the end of the day. And here's another crazy reality, and I hope you're not working in cities where this is the case, but in Silicon Valley, if you're a software engineer, you never have just one job offer. You have 3 or 4 if you want to. You are an endangered species. And there's lots of reasons for that. The number of STEM graduates, the really archaic immigration policies that we have in the US, we do not have a supply of talent to meet the needs of what a lot of these growth companies need to realize. But we wound up winning more. And so let me go into a little bit of how we were able to do that. So let's go back to 2009. Again, little time warp here. Back in 2009, post-recession, we were struggling, as I said, to build our moat really quickly. But one of the ironies for me running human resources was, guess what? All the people that I'm recruiting against, guess whose product they're using? My product. So I remember getting a knock on the door. Hey, Steve, this is Mike. Mike's our head of sales. Hey, Steve, can you come over? We're going to Google today. It's our first $1 million deal. Like, we're going to sell them our recruiting product. It's going to be the biggest deal that we've ever done. Really? Why do I want to do that? Because those guys are going to use my product to recruit against me. What are we doing? No, I'm not going to go help you sell Google. But Steve, it's $1 million deal. We're arming our competitors. That's the irony here. That was a crazy, crazy irony. I wound up doing it, and yes, we did get the deal. No thanks to me. But let me show you a little bit about, again, Google, they just surpassed Apple. Did you guys see that last week? Is the most valuable company in the world. Or is it Alphabet now? Is that what they call it? Anyway, this is a picture, an aerial shot, not taken from a drone, because it's illegal actually to fly drones in the US now because the Super Bowl is happening right around there. But this is a town called Mountain View, California. Here's an aerial shot. And right in the middle of that town, I had a few little buildings there. And next to my buildings happened to be a company you might have heard of. And oh wait, there's another set of buildings over there. Oh wait, there's more of those guys there. And oh wait, that's where they are. Okay? So And what's happening when my employees are driving to work is that they're having to avoid all the Google buses that are shuttling all these fancy, catered breakfasts from all the superstar engineers from San Francisco down to Mountain View, California. And just up the street is Facebook, and just up the street in the city is San Francisco. All right, I want to do another quick poll for you, if we could. And I skipped the order of my slides here, but I wanted to see if you're in my shoes. And you're sitting in that reality, and you have to compete against Google for top talent. How would you do it? How would you try to compete? Give them more money? Is that how you would compete? Would you inflate their titles? Like, oh, you're a director over at PayPal. We're going to make you a vice president over here. It's going to work. How would you do that? Because this was a big thing that we had to face. At one point, it really, to me, felt like when you were competing against Google for talent, they had this new maternity leave benefits policy that they put in place, where it sort of felt like if you had a baby, they would give you a stroller, a nanny, and they would build a house in the back of your house for your in-laws to live in. I mean, that's how crazy it felt. And I'm like, we'll send you a card. when you have a baby. Congratulations. So let me go back to this slide here, which is really, I think, the start of what I hope is going to open your eyes to what's possible when you're facing incredible odds like we were here. So here's something that a lot of people don't really know about LinkedIn, and that is not a single member of the executive team, the Edgar, the Fernandos, the whole team that you have here, that we had at LinkedIn, no one had ever done anything like this before. No one had ever worked in the recruiting industry, save for me, since I've done a ton of recruiting. No one had ever led teams as big as we became. No one had ever taken a company public before. We had a CEO that had never been a CEO before. Okay, he'd been an executive at Warner Brothers, and then he was an executive at Yahoo. But he'd never been a CEO before. This is his first time. And he was the third CEO that we've had. We had a founder, didn't work out. He hired someone, that didn't work out. And so Jeff was the third CEO and a first-timer. We had a very complex business model. A lot of people presume that internet web businesses are really selling ad revenue. We actually were selling licenses. We were selling subscription services. We were selling a recruiting product, which is basically an enterprise a SaaS model. And we also had another problem that we were facing, which I alluded to earlier, which is that we were worried that all these other companies were going to take our business away from us before we could even build it, that Google would undermine us. Do you know the number one avenue for traffic to LinkedIn came from? Google. What if they played around with that formula and we weren't the number one search results when you entered a professional's name? You know the power that they have? It's pretty incredible. We were worried when they launched Google Circles that was going to take us out of business. Ultimately, it didn't. And there's probably lots of reasons why. One of the big reasons we thought was because of social network fatigue. I've got so many networks now. People are like, hey, Steve, did you see my tweet the other day? No, I haven't talked to my mom in 2 months. What do I want to look at your tweet for? I'm tired. I just figured out how to work Facebook last month. Why do I want to figure out Google Circles? I'm tired. And so we had built the moat fast enough, but we were really worried about these competitive threats taking us over. And then lastly, just, another real hard, is just the pain of growth. When you have something new and you're going through change, a lot of people have different ideas about how to do that. And we had arguments, we had fights, we had verbal battles. I've been asked sometimes when I've spoken to a lot of students around the world, and they say, Steve, how did you get that leadership team to just really trust each other and really love each other? And that must have been so cool. How did you do that? And I said, what are you talking about? I said, that executive staff room, there was mutual respect, but we weren't going out drinking at the bar and having barbecues. This was like battle. When we were in executive staff, it was battle. And we learned how to combat and debate really, really well, which is just an interesting thing. This is so painful. We had sales leaders that wanted to sell differently. In the very early days, we had a very important asset, which was the data. All professionals gave us their data. So one day, Google comes knocking on the door again and says, hey, can you build us an internal directory? Because guess what? Our employees have told you more about themselves than they're telling us. So we'll give you $5 million and you could build us this internal directory, and then we can build a employee development system. That'll be really cool. And our chairman's like, we're not doing that. And our head of sales is like, what are you talking about? This is another $5 million deal. We are not doing that. Because this is an opt-in platform that we have. And if the members don't give permission to Google to be part of their whole system, they don't want to share their data, that's their choice. We're not going to build a system where we ruin the trust of the relationship that we've built. But these are some of the philosophical questions that are still being debated. What I heard Sato talking about with all of you earlier today is encouraging that debate. Raising the hard questions. We used to measure our company meetings by how many tough questions were asked. Because if the tough questions weren't being asked, we were worried that the trust was eroding, or people felt not politically correct to ask the question. You know what? If we weren't going to make the right decisions and we didn't have the right information, we were going to die quickly because the competition was next door and the talent was not going to join us if we weren't going to build a good relationship. Okay, so we already covered this one. My bad on that one. All right, so we hit an inflection point. All right, we said the biggest impediment to our growth, hiring great tech talent. What's our main product? Recruiting. Ironic, right? Here's a company whose product is recruiting. What's our biggest problem? Recruiting. And if I could confess something to you here, because, it's a little frustrating, we were the only company in the world that only used LinkedIn to recruit. Every other place is like, oh, I'm going to use my search firm to help me here, and recruiter companies, Spencer Stewart, Egon Zehnder, Korn Ferry. That was against religion at LinkedIn. The only country we were able to use a search firm was Japan, because 7 people in Japan had a LinkedIn profile. That was it. And you all know this. You know how Twitter exploded in Japan, right? It was a tsunami. The sense of urgency and the need to communicate created a need, and that was used. We haven't found, I don't think LinkedIn still cracked the code there, and I think the amount of career movement in Japan is different. I think the usage of your actual professional name is a little bit different, so it's yet to take hold. So we needed to figure out a way to be world class, and I got to tell you, I had moments where I'm sitting at LinkedIn going, I don't even know if this product works, because I'm not able to recruit successfully. And we used to have this saying on our leadership team: if you feel that paying people more money is the best way to recruit, then you don't know how to manage people. Because money is never the right way, I think, to be able to recruit world-class talent. Anyway, we can come back to that. So we said, all right, we got to figure this out. Game on, everyone all in. And we said, now we're going to focus, the whole company is going to focus on recruiting. I kid you not. We had a company meeting, all hands meeting. Number one goal in the company, the next 6 months, hiring top talent. It's the number one thing. Yeah, but it's Q4 and I'm a salesperson. I got to close the numbers. You're going to have to elevate someone behind you. You need to get out there and start recruiting. Whatever you need to do, referral programs, travel, campus visits, on-sites, job fairs, whatever we got to do it. And so we said, okay, what we do know that we can control is something that's in our domain. Is we know that recruiting, unlike how much other people are paid at other companies, unlike the benefits that Google and Facebook are offering, I can control the recruiting experience. I can do that. No one can mess with me on that one. So we made it our number one priority. We measured everything. We measured 300 different steps in the recruiting process. And we said, if hiring people is the most important thing, and we believe talent is the most important thing, and by the way, we're the professional network, we should know and be really good at this. We said, you can't be great at something unless you can measure it. You can't. And I didn't know, and I worked in recruiting for 20 plus years, I didn't know that there were 300 things you could measure in recruiting. But we measured, how many times do people cancel their interviews? How long are the interviews? Who's canceling the interviews? On average, how long does it take from the point where we say we want to make an offer, do we make the offer? And how long from they accept the offer and they start? And why is it 15 days? Why isn't it 7? Why isn't it 2? How many technical phone screens do we need to do before we know a candidate is successful? By recruiter, how many people did this person successfully identify and get hired? Then we started taking a look at our referral program, because the first thing you do when you're in trouble and you're desperate in recruiting is you throw money at a big referral program. $10,000 for a data science engineer. Oh, not good enough. $20,000. You refer a data science candidate to us and they get hired. What happened was, as soon as you start throwing money at the problem, garbage started coming across the wall. And we looked at CVs and go, wait, this kid was a Boy Scout and they went on a trip to a data science museum. He's not a data scientist. But so then we said, okay, change the rule. We're going to give you $5,000 if you refer a data science candidate to us and they get 2 interviews, even if we don't hire them. Then we started measuring the effective referrals by department. So we said, we're going to make it transparent. Which department is really stepping it up? Then we did this, we called it 1-for-1 day. We would get our whole engineering team in a room like this and say, all of you are going to have to refer 1 qualified candidate and get that person interviewed before you leave the room. Today, right now, we're going to do it. I will feed you, I will give you the free beer, I will give you the pizza, whatever it takes, but everyone is going to be responsible for hiring 1 person in this next month, and we're going to start sourcing now. We had sourcing parties That's how critical it was. So we focused on it, and we got crazy. Everyone was committed. It was exciting. We got behind it. But we were losing still. We still were losing, and it was killing us. And we're a bunch of competitive people. The offer decline started going up. The competing offers started getting crazy. I started to have to hire actuaries to be able to explain. And a big part of the compensation in Silicon Valley is stock and equity. And what would happen was Twitter, at one point, made 3 offers to people that I was also making offers to at the same level, senior engineer. And one person got 10,000 shares, one person got 40,000 shares, and one person got 17. So I said, screw this. I got in my car and I went up, I met with the head of Twitter. I said, HR. I said, Janet, what the F are you doing? Do you know, like your recruiters are making these crazy offers and it's throwing the market out of whack. Like, I don't mind competing against you, but do you even know what you're doing? And the market was going crazy. It used to be in compensation that you would look at the competitive salaries once a year. It got to be that we needed to look at compensation once a month, once a week. What's Salesforce doing? What's Google doing? What's Twitter? And people were changing the game all kinds of ways. Competing offers. Netflix, you guys familiar with Netflix? They got really sneaky. And they got brilliant with this one too. They pulled this trick on me. Well, it wasn't on me, but they pulled it on the whole industry. So they said, okay, we're going to say, we're going to hire the best people in the world to work at Netflix. And we're going to pay you the best salary in the world because you are the best in the world. And so we think for you, Mr. Senior Engineer or Mrs. Data Scientist, we're going to pay you $200,000. That's the value we think your job is, with bonus, with benefits, with salary, and we're just going to give you that cash. There it is. And so when I looked at the same position and the same candidate, I would say, okay, I've got a base salary of $120,000 and then a discretionary bonus plan if we hit our targets and you hit your performance measurables, and then you can get another $20,000 to $25,000 depending on how well you do. And then our benefits plan, whoa, wow, they're really great benefits, let me tell you. But that's going to be, so I can net out near $200,000. So what do you think the candidate wants? A wheelbarrow of $200,000 in cash? Or sort of like a package that kind of gets there and takes me a little bit of salesmanship like I'm selling a car? They messed it up. They were so smart. They said, we're going to let you decide. We're going to give you the money. The downside of that thing about Netflix, which hasn't been written about, is that if they think you're the best and they're going to pay you the best and you're not the best, guess what happens? Over 20% involuntary termination over there. We called that the look over your shoulder, because if you screw up, you're out. And we didn't want that kind of culture. But anyway, that was really smart. Google did something too that totally screwed me up. Google says, we have a bonus program, but guess what? Every year we're successful, so we pay the bonus, so screw it. We're wasting all this time figuring out what bonuses to pay people. We're just going to put it right in the base salary. So now I'm like, oh, now I have to go and like, do I have to do a guaranteed bonus too? I'm not even close to making the kind of money that they're making. So we were getting screwed all over the place. It was taking us forever to close people. It was just getting brutal. Managers were so frustrated, actually had physical fights. Our managers were fighting each other. I got that candidate first. No, I got that candidate first. No, they're going to work on my team. No, they're going to work on my team. People think, oh yeah, so easy to be successful over there at LinkedIn. Oh man, literally fights were breaking out. I was breaking up. Pressure mounted. And it forced us to ask the best question we ever asked. And every company I've ever worked for, I presumed this question was being asked, but I wasn't sure. And I wonder if you've asked yourself this question, but we never had. Why does someone want to work for us? I think we all presume that we're pretty cool. We're working on cool technology. We're going to change the world. We're going to make a difference. We matter. We've got great people. We have a great work environment, a great culture. But have you ever sat around and really asked, why does someone want to work here? And that's what we had to do. We just say, well, what is going on here? We're measuring everything. We're tweaking things. We're doing great recruiters. We're making it the most important priority in the entire company, ahead of making money, because it's a long-term bet. We're going to get the people in now, and the profits will follow. Why does someone want to work here? And that's when we started dreaming. That's when we started getting clarity around why are we here and what is our purpose? Why do we matter? And you know what? In Silicon Valley, what is really great about that pressure is if you don't have a really good answer to that story, someone will decide to go somewhere else tomorrow. There's not works unions, there's not works councils, there's not all kinds of mandatory notice periods. I can leave you today and go tomorrow. I had a candidate join me a day and quit. They quit after a day. And I said, who hit that person in the parking lot when they were walking from their car to the front of the door? Like, what happened? So I was at Walmart's headquarters trying to convince them to buy some product, and I get a phone call, Steve, we have a guy just quit after a day. And then they really got me. He's going to Facebook. I went, shit. Going to Facebook? Why? I want to see him in my office tomorrow. Well, Steve, he already quit. All right, I'll see him at Starbucks or a cafe or something. Tell him I need to talk to him. So I brought him in Starbucks and said, cappuccino, latte, triple espresso, like Fernando likes. I mean, what do you want? And I said, so dear, we've been trying to recruit you for 3 months. And my inner Godfather voice was like, you are so dead to me. I was trying to be nice because maybe I could convince him to come back. We've been talking to you for 3 months. I had you meet with the chairman of my company. We interviewed you. We took you out to dinners. We learned the name of your dog. We didn't let you bring your dog to work. Is that the problem? He says, well, Steve, when I was interviewing with you, I was also interviewing with Facebook. And, I liked the project that Facebook was working on more than I liked the project that I was going to work on at LinkedIn. But during the interview process, they turned the project off. So I decided to work for you. Well, the day before I joined, they let me know the project's back on. So I'm going to go work for them now. And I went, wow. I was like, is this Steve's Millennial 101 course that I'm learning like firsthand? Is this a canary in the coal mine? Is this the new employee of the future is loyal to the project, not the company, not the culture? And that was a real wake-up call for me. Like, wow, this person maybe we didn't do a good enough job of being clear of what problems we were solving and how significant and how important to the world, to world economies it is to know where skills and jobs need to work and how no one solved that graph, the employment graph at scale before. So it got us really, really focused. Why does someone want to work here? And that led us to sit around, and finally we got to something that still gives me goosebumps today thinking about it. We stumbled on this, and it wasn't like because we're all really smart. It was because we had a lot of pain that we said, what's the one thing that we can control? I can't control my cell phone, obviously. I can't control that. It controls me. But what we can control is the employee experience. I can't pay what those people can pay. I can't have the fancy buildings that Apple's got. They're building some sort of Starship Enterprise, huge thing, monoliths, amazing. I can't give free iPhones. But I can make working here the best job you ever had. And that is something that no one else can do but us. No one else can mess with that. I might not be able to pay you that, but where do you want to go with your life? What do you want to learn? What do you want to do? What difference do you want to make? And do you want to help change people's lives and help them find their dream jobs? And this is where things got really good, because I worked at places where we had, the vision, mission, values, and then we would ask each other in the elevator, what's the mission? What are the 7 values? And we're like, oh, I can remember 2. Oh crap, I'm the head of HR. I can't even remember those things. So we said, here's our culture, one word, transformation. Transforming people's lives. If you come work here, you will get a chance to help transform the lives of all our members. And, even better, we're going to help transform your career when you're here. Do you see that? The symmetry of employee experience and customer value proposition was so powerful. And that's when we started to realize we had something beautiful. We also asked ourselves, what assets do we have that the Apples and the Facebooks and the Twitters and the Googles don't? The problems that we're solving and the people we have solving those problems. Because for a developer, we figured out, hey, hiring a developer involves 4 key simple things. They want to work on great technology, with great people, on something that matters, and they want to learn. They want to learn. I can do that. So we said, okay, we need a tech luminary. Any of you tech luminaries? And the executives look around, no tech luminaries here. Okay, well, we need a tech luminary. Should we go hire one? Do you know any tech luminaries? And someone goes, yeah, we know James Gosling. And I go, yeah, he's that Canadian actor. He's really good. Does he know code? Like, no, that's Ryan Gosling. James Gosling is the founder of Java. He hangs out and drinks beers down the corner bar every day. Why don't we invite him here to come here and have beer here and bring his buddies here? And then all of you can bring all your friends from Facebook and Twitter over for a beer and hanging out with James and talk about how we're transforming people's lives. When we started to do that, something really interesting happened in our interviews. As we started to hire more and we started to gain a little bit more momentum, our team started to believe, wow, maybe we are really going to be successful and maybe we can do this. Do you know that that was something that was really, really hard for our executive team and all of our managers across the company, was actually believing we deserved something amazing and that we were worthy of it. Because a lot of us were so used to sitting in these big companies and just, listening and, okay, yeah, sure, not owning and saying, hey, everyone matters. Everyone makes a difference. This career transformation took some pretty fun iterations, and let me show you a couple of these. I'm going to just tell you one of these stories, which is one of my favorite ones. So Michael Nguyen, upper left. Incredible guy. Working in our finance organization, very happy. I know those of you in finance, I know it's hard, happy, finance. Us HR people, it's our natural-born enemies, finance people. We hate, because they never give us budget. You finance people never give us the money to do the things that our employees need. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. Michael's sitting in accounting, and all Michael does is talk about the hot dog truck, doggy diner truck on the weekends that he and his family drive around and the amazing relishes that they make with these hot dogs. That's all he does on the weekends. And all week long, that's what he talked about it. Well, we hit a certain point in the size of our company where we needed an on-site food program. We went to Michael and said, hey, do you want to do the food program? He goes, what? Yeah, we need someone to run the food program. Clearly, you love it because that's all you talk about. So we made him the food guy. And let me tell you something. He cried when we did that. He couldn't believe that the company would put him from his finance and accounting role into running the food program. And guess what he did? He got this thing out and tweeted the hell out of it. So Michael became my public relations department for career growth and satisfaction. I got to tell you another one because this is another one of my favorite ones. So Catherine Porter, lower left. Catherine's sitting in our business development office and she overhears a meeting in the cube next to her where the team is organizing to build our first office in Japan. And so she goes around the corner and says, hi, I'm Catherine. I overheard you having this conversation about building this organization in Japan. I'd love to join you. Can I? And so Catherine said, they said, well,